samlede hengivne, Hare Krishna, Adati samlede hengivne, Hare Krishna, Adati Shri Shri Guru Gauranga, Adati Shri Gopal, Shri Gopal Ki Jai. Så vidt jeg kan se, så er det verset fra i går.
Jeg går med først.
Er det det?
Det er skrevet i går.
Hvad?
Jamen det er skrevet lidt i går.
Det er det samme vers.
Det var lidt sent. Det er det ikke.
Så jeg skal bare læse det. So we read today from 6th canto, chapter 1. Det bedste kunne være at tage på engelsk, ikke? Det er den, der får dig at forstå. Så
Jeg siger, der bør take sannyas. Today. Was it?
my special day today?
Prabhupada took sannyas.
Okay, good.
And Vishwarup Maha also. Vishwarup left his body.
Who?
Vishwarup.
Will flow Chaitanya?
Yeah.
So we read from Canto 6, Chapter 1, text 61. Since we don't have the verse on the board, I will read it, and it's a quite short verse, so I'll just read through the 61st verse and then go on to the 62nd verse. Distvatam kamaliptena bahuna parirambitam jagama ditchayavasam sahaseva vimohitam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Shudra, his arm decorated with turmeric powder, was embracing the prostitute. When Ajamil saw her, the dormant lusty desires in his heart awakened, and in illusion he fell under their control. Purport. It is said that if one's body is smeared with turmeric, it attracts the lusty desires of the opposite sex. The word karmaliptena indicates that the Shudra was decorated with turmeric smeared on his body. Text 62. Stambhayan atmanatmanam yavat sattvam yata shutam nasasaka samadhatum mano madhanavepitam. So here we can recite the word by word together at least. Stambhayan control.
Trying to control.
Atmana.
Atmana.
By the intelligence.
By the intelligence.
Atmanam.
Atmanam.
The mind.
The mind.
Yavat sattvam.
Yavat sattvam.
As far as possible for him.
As far as possible for him.
Yatha shuddham.
Yatha.
By remembering the instruction.
Remembering the instruction
Of celibacy.
of celibacy.
Brahmacharya.
Brahmacharya.
Not even to see a woman.
Not even to see a woman.
Na.
No.
Not.
Not.
Sasaka.
Sasaka.
Was able.
Was able.
Samadhatum. To restrain. Mana. The mind.
The mind.
Madana vepitam.
Madana vepitam.
Agitated by Cupid.
Agitated by Cupid.
Or lusty desire.
Or lusty desire.
Translation. As far as possible, he patiently tried to remember the instructions of the Shastras, not even to see a woman. With the help of this knowledge and his intellect, he tried to control his lusty desires, but because of the force of Cupid within his heart, he failed to control his mind. Purport. Unless one is very strong in knowledge, patience, and proper bodily, mental, and intellectual behavior, controlling one's lusty desires is extremely difficult. Thus, after seeing a man embracing a young woman and practically doing everything required for sex life, even a fully qualified Brahmana, as described above, could not control his lusty desires and restrain himself from pursuing them. Because of the force of materialistic life, to maintain self-control is extremely difficult unless one is specifically under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service. So, take the verse again. Stambhayan atmanatmanam yavat sattvam yatasutam nasasaka samadhatum manoman madanavepitam. As far as possible, he patiently tried to remember the instructions of the Shastras, not even to see a woman. With the help of this knowledge and his intellect, he tried to control his lusty desires, but because of the force of Cupid within his heart, he failed to control his mind. Om Jnana Kalandana Salakaya Chakshunam Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, when we look at the first verse, mainly it carries some practical instructions, some of how we organize, of how the Vedic culture it is arranged in such a way that normally this is something that you don't see. You don't see in a Vedic culture a man shamelessly embracing a woman in public like this. This is out of the ordinary. this extraordinary case, which has also previously been mentioned in one of the previous purports, this was not the normal sight to be seen. Rather, the standard would be that the women would be protected. That means that they will be instructed by their parents to how to dress properly, not to cover themselves, not to arouse lusty desires in that way in the opposite sex. So that would be the, you can say, standard of training. And so because of this was there, then the chance that these things would happen would be minimized because of the culture, because women would be protected, they would be properly guided. For the male side, they would also be trained that women are supposed to be protected. They're not supposed to be seen as objects of selfish enjoyment. So when this training is there, when this training is successful, then the society will protect conditioned souls from falling victim to lusty desires. And when this training is absent, because the knowledge is absent, then we'll have the loose and illicit mixing of the sexes. And the result, of course, is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. The result will be Varna Shankara, unwanted population, unwanted children. Children which are produced simply out of lusty desire. It's not produced according to the direction of the Shastra. So dharma virudho, like Krishna says, I'm that sex life which is not against the principles of the Shastra, against the regulation of the Shastra. But in this age where these principles are not followed, the result is that the children that are born, they are Varna Shankara, and therefore Krishna says that all havoc is there in society because of this. This is the reason why the fabric of society is gradually destroyed and all unwanted miserable conditions will become visible. So this is actually a very important point, and actually which has to be somehow established again in some ideal society. And actually what Prabhupada's idea for ISKCON was that within ISKCON they would first establish a head, an intelligence should be established within the Brahminical class, should be established so that these instructions can be passed on, that a society can be guided by proper knowledge, by individuals in proper knowledge, so that this culture can be re-established. And like that he wanted ISKCON to be a sample picture that the world could look at to see, okay, it's possible to live life in this way, and if you do it in this way, then you get this result. Then you get peace within society, and you get the possibility to engage progressively in the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. That will only be possible when life is conducted under the 4 rules and regulations, and when life is lived according to these standards. Then spiritual enlightenment will be possible. And if it's not, if these regulations are not followed, then spiritual enlightenment will also not be possible. So Srila Prabhupada, he wanted that we as members of ISKCON somehow or other could have this vision, or could partake in this, you can say, design, this proper Vedic design, so that we could show the world that it's possible to live life in this way. There's an alternative to the Varna Shankara producing illicit mixing of the sexes, which we see today, which has become the standard rather than the exception, as it we see explained that this was actually an exceptional case at this particular time. So that's very important, that simply dress code, that's an important element in the Vedic culture, and we should know how to dress properly like that, not to cause any agitation in the opposite sex like that. That's one very basic principle. So I believe that is what we can, that what we'll take from the first verse. We can move on to the 62nd verse, and here we have some very practical instructions of what happens when we get agitated, when it is that we allow our mind, our senses to be fixed on an object of enjoyment. And as we know, Krishna, he explains actually how this works in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in verse 62. Somebody knows this verse? Yes, Andrew, have your hand up first.
Contemplating the objects of the senses.
Do you know the Sanskrit?
Oh,
No? Somebody knows? We like to have the Sanskrit first and then the English translation. 262. Somebody knows? Yes, Oscar. Yes. That's correct. And Jayato Vishaya Pumsham. Jayato, while contemplating Vishaya, the objects of the senses, Pumsha, a person, while a person contemplates the object of the senses, then the next one, Sangas Teshu. Sangas Teshu Vajayate. Sangas, will that be attachment?
Association.
Huh?
Association.
Association, yeah. Sangas Teshu. For them, Teshu. Upajayate. And upajayate means it becomes manifest, association. And then Sangat, is it Sangat? Sandate, karma. And from that attachment, lust arises, and from lust, it is said, then comes the anger. So, but we're interested in the part with the lust, because this is actually what we hear here. This is the point where Ajamil he comes to the point of lust. He goes from the point of seeing the prostitute and the shameless Shudra, they're embracing. He associates with that activity. He sees them, and from seeing that, then the lust that comes. Simply for observing it, the lusty desires, they become agitated within his heart. They are there. He has been controlling them because of good instructions. These lusty desires, they've been kept in check. Up until this point of youth. Up until this very point, these lusty desires have been kept in check by a proper guided life, proper regulated life. But when he sees it, because the seeds are in the heart, then the lusty desires, it comes out. And it is said, because they're strong, because the force of Cupid within his heart, even though he knows it's wrong, he knows this is dangerous, it's not favorable, and he tries to check, these desires from influencing him. Still, because the desires are too strong, then he cannot divert his mind. His mind goes there and it starts meditating on the sense object. And then, from meditation, there comes plan. And then it's already too late. Then we've already, been caught, by the illusory energy. When it goes from contemplation to planning. So that's why it's important to endeavor to use, as he tries, when we see and we get attracted to something, some sense of it, we know we're not supposed to do, then the real task is by one's strengthen one's mind, strengthen one's intelligence, to check it before it comes to the stage of planning. Because when it comes to the stage of planning, then the meditation will continue and will actually develop ways and means of how to actually go and do the sinful activity. And then it is said that when we actually engage in the sinful activity, then there comes a proclivity to do it again. And that's a real practical thing, because you can see the mind, it just is very accustomed to creating habits very easily. So when you do one thing that you didn't used to do one day, and then the next day you may feel doing again, it may be some innocent thing, like say, you're not supposed to eat ice cream, from the shops, like that. But let's say one day you really feel like it, so you go and buy yourself an ice cream, and you eat it, and then, the next day you walk by, ice cream shop, then the mind, hey, we did that, yesterday, so we can also do it today, we should do it today. And then the agitation will be, and then the thought will be, because when you see an ice cream, you think of the enjoyment that you had, doing that. And, it will be forced, it will be difficult to control, because you've already done it. So in this way, the mind easily creates a habit, it easily gets into a habit. So the point here is that the real task is to stop ourselves from actually planning to engage in sense gratification, because then the mind is diverted from devotional service to the business of planning for sense gratification. Then we already, so to say, caught, again, by the illusion and energy when we start planning for material sense gratification. That's really what we have. The real endeavor at the stage where we at. We have to check ourselves from falling into the, that planning phase, because that's when for sure we'll do it. For sure we'll go out and do what we're not supposed to do. So, as when it comes to, for the opposite sex, it says an instruction for brahmacharya. I believe it is actually already in this chapter. I think it is already, it is said in a purport there. Prabhupada said, there's some instructions that one should not think of a woman, one should not think of a woman, one should not look at a woman.
See the face.
And then there's it comes that there's like I believe it's like 8 stages, and I can't remember exactly the verse.
Should not dally with women.
Dally, yeah, that's also there.
Engage in sexual intercourse.
That's the last one. The last one is one should not engage in sexual intercourse. But before that, one should not plan for it, and one should not endeavor for it. Like that, it goes in stages. So we can see that first of all, the first stage is one should not even think about women. That's the first one. If you can stop it there, then you will never come to the planning phase. You never come to the planning for it and to endeavor for it, and then finally to engage in it. So the thing is that to control the mind and senses means to stop it in the beginning, to become strong enough spiritually, and that means bala, that means spiritual strength, that means the mercy of Balaram, to be able to stop these desires at the thinking stage, not allowing them to come to the contemplation stage, because then we're already compromised. And then our mind is already breached, so to speak. It's already the planning for material sense is already going on. And then we should know we're really in a spot, a difficult spot when we come to that stage. So we should endeavor to be able strong enough to stop it at the thinking stage. And if you're able to do that, if you're able to acquire sufficient spiritual strength to stop yourself at the thinking stage, then you'll be all right. And then there's good opportunity that you go from this sadhana bhakti of trying to artificially or strenuously restraining yourself from sense gratification to actually going to higher understanding in spiritual life, to actually getting more mercy. So actually that's our business. There's the positive engagement. Srila Prabhupada said the process of devotional service consists of 2 items. It's positive engagement. We engage in the positive things, hearing and chanting. Shavanam kirtan, we take prasadam. And so there's a lot of positive, there's a lot of sukham, kartum, avayam, there's a lot of pleasurable activities, positive things in devotional life. But there's also the negative sides. There's also the negative restriction. And our business in the negative restriction is that we have to acquire the spiritual strength to stop the ideas for sense gratification at the thinking stage. No, not allowing them to go towards the stage of planning and execution. So this is the most obvious practical thing we may take from this 62nd verse. And we may then ask ourselves, because as it said at the last sentence, that because of the force of Cupid within his heart, he failed to control his mind. So this force of Cupid, someone may ask, well, why is it that we have this very strong force in our hearts? Now, it seems so difficult to get rid of these lusty desires, and they seem very powerful. Like, how is that? So it is explained also in the Shastras